All right, welcome back to Raff's Brain, a show about things that are interesting to me. I am your host, Rob Raffety. Welcome to another episode of Walk and Talk. It's a stream of consciousness style product of the Raff's Brain podcast, where, as the name just suggests, I walk around my neighborhood with a selfie stick, looking like a complete lunatic, and just rambling and talking about something on my mind. But this is a unique episode of the Raff's Brain podcast because for the first time, the content is by request. Yes, one of the loyal Raff's Brain listeners out there wanted to hear my thoughts and opinions and pontifications about the recent disappointing but nevertheless expected Pittsburgh Steelers playoff loss to the Baltimore Ravens. This happened over the weekend. Very depressing, not unexpected. Nevertheless, one of my listeners said, Raff, I'd love to hear what you have to say about the Steelers. How do we fix this situation? Oh boy, do I have some thoughts on this, folks. So yes, for episode number, and get this is not by at all intended. It just happened this way. Episode number what? 66. Yes, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, you probably shouldn't be listening to this podcast. Come on. 66. Mario Lemieux, Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, that's synonymous. If that doesn't immediately come to mind when you hear the number 66, there's really, I don't know. We probably can't be friends. How do you say, hey Alexa, how do you say 66 in French? It's like Swisson Swiss? Something like that?
Okay, but which language do you want me to translate to?
French. 66 in French. Soixante-six?
66 in French is 66.
Yes, Soixante-six. Episode Soixante-six of Walk and Talk. All right, I got to hit up my watch. I'm going to get some steps in. Also, one more thing I'll say before we get the episode really started is that, and this is funny, man, I actually recorded an episode, about half an hour walk and talk on this very topic early this morning. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was really tired. And I got through it, and then I realized, man, I don't even remember what I was talking about. I was half out of it, and that really is kind of unacceptable. I think I was a little bit negative. I think I was rambling, but that's okay. I mean, you know, Walk and Talk is stream of consciousness. It's not going to always be completely on point. It's just me pontificating, spouting off. One thing leads to the next. But I think I was going off the reservation. I was just really talking about some crazy stuff. So bottom line is, we're going to save that for the blooper reel. We're going to go straight into a new episode. Soixante-six. Raff's Brain coming at you right now. All right, let's step outside into the frigid lands of Northern Virginia. Yes, we're just going to walk up and down my neighborhood street a little bit and talk about the black and gold, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the greatest franchise in the history of the National Football League. 7 Super Bowl appearances, 6 Super Bowl champions. I mean, we're coming up, I guess we're approaching or closing in on Super Bowl number 60 in the near future. Think about this for a second, folks. The Pittsburgh Steelers have appeared in like over 10% of the Super Bowls ever played in the National Football League. That's insane. That's remarkable. That makes me so proud to be a part of this illustrious fan base of the greatest franchise known to man. And so I got to start with that. When people ask me, like, how do you handle this recent string of losses in the playoffs, or not even making the playoffs, yet we had to, counterbalance that with the fact that we have winning seasons. Mike Tomlin, for all his faults or alleged problems, is, gets it done in the regular season. And that's pretty remarkable. It's a cool accomplishment. But ultimately, you have to say that's not the goal, right? Like, you don't play the game just to be a above average team in the regular season. You play the game to make the playoffs and then make a run. That's got to be part of the equation. It's got to be a priority. So I don't really care if we go undefeated in the regular season. If you don't win the Super Bowl, if you don't make a run at that, if you're not competitive at that elite level for many consecutive years, as we have been, it seems, I'm just not sure that bodes well for your long-term success in the position. On the other hand, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the extraordinary commitment that the Steelers show to their coaches. Historically, they've only had 3 coaches: Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. I dig that immensely. And it's such a world of like disposable, throw away everything. The idea that we can actually, commit through thick and thin, give someone a chance to put their stamp on the culture. That means a lot. That's nothing to sneeze at. So I'm a fan of the idea of long-term coaches sticking through them. Now, here's the thing. We've stuck through Tomlin. It's not been thin, per se. I mean, he's thick in the sense that we've been winning in the regular season. It's the playoff resume that's really lacking at this point. And yes, he's been to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. But that was sort of with like legacy or carryover players. So people want to discount those. I don't know, man. Well, let's back up a second as we're walking and talking here and just get a little context for why I even care about the Steelers. Where does that come from? What are some of my fondest memories? Then we're going to dive into a diagnosis of the problem. Is it coaching? Is it personnel? Is it a combination? What do we do about it? Let's just let's take it in that order. So my affinity for Pittsburgh stems from the fact that I was born there. That's right, Mount Lebanon, 1975, October. That's when I graced this planet with my presence. And it's cool that I was born into the city of champions, man, because at that point, they had the Pirates and the Steelers going on some massive runs. And that's amazing, and I'm a fan, and I like to be, I like to take credit for that. Was it a coincidence that I was born in the Pittsburgh and the Steelers were on the cusp of winning their 3rd or 4th Super Bowl? The Pirates were getting geared up for 79. I mean, come on. There are no coincidences in life. It's like the movie Signs. Probably the best M. Night Shyamalan movie. And I'm a big fan. I like that guy. I know he gets a lot of flack. And not all his movies hit. But he's creative. And he reaches and he tries. And he has ambition. And he wants to do something new. He tells stories that are different. It's not just the same old refried, sequels and prequels and trash that we see out of Hollywood. I like this guy. So yeah, where was I going with this? I don't even remember. Context. I'm a fan of the Steelers because I was born there. But beyond that, I watched a lot of those games growing up as a kid. So this is what happens pre-cable, okay? Pre-internet. 70s, 80s, early 90s. Especially for someone like me. So I was born in Pittsburgh. We moved to Erie. We then actually moved to D.C. for a few years. But I spent most of my life in rural West Virginia, about 2 hours south of Pittsburgh, a little town called Buchanan, population 6,000. And we were just close enough to the Pittsburgh stations that we could pick up the broadcast every Sunday after church. It was like an extension of religion, right? It's a weekly ritual to get up, go to church, come home, have lunch, belly up before the family living room TV, gather round and watch the black and gold. Here's the thing, though. Those were some lean years, right? After those 4 championships in 6 years, the Steelers kind of plateaued, and they were actually kind of lousy in the 80s. Chuck Noll, God love him, he did what he could with the talent he had. But I was really more cognizant and alert and awake. Not in the Bradshaw years. That was really kind of it predates my cognition, if you will. I was there for Mark Malone, Bubby Brister, Neil O'Donnell, Cordell Stewart, Mike Tomczak. I don't know, none of those names really hit. And we had some lean times, man, especially the 80s. But those were fun times. Even though the team was kind of mediocre, we were competitive. And, well, maybe that's not true, actually. There were some pretty lousy seasons. But I do remember in 89, or 88, 89 maybe, we played the Houston Oilers in the wild card game, and Gary Anderson booted a 50-yard field goal. Back when a 50-yard field goal was like a thing of wonder. That was a big deal, man. There was a time when a 50-yard field goal was awe-inspiring and unexpected and unbelievable. It's like Gary Anderson was from another planet. It were the 2 Andersons, too. It was Gary Anderson and Morton Anderson with the Saints. That dude, I think, kicked with a bare foot. Where does that come from? I don't know. But now it's like everyone's drilling 50-yarders. 60's the new 50. It's crazy. But, where was I going with this? Yeah, man, Walter Abercrombie, Louis Lips, get out of town. He was a great receiver. Very talented. Oh, of course, Rod Woodson. Guy was unbelievable. I'm very happy he got a Super Bowl with the Ravens, even though I'm not a fan of the Ravens. I'm a fan of Rod Woodson. So where are we going with this? I'm just giving you some nostalgia. I'm giving you some sense of where I'm coming from. We put, aluminum foil on the rabbit ears to get better reception. And tune in the game every Sunday, for better or for worse. And in many times it was for the worse. They had that one season in 84, we went to the AFC Championship, and I think we lost to Dan Marino. Someone's going to have to fact check me on that. I don't know if that's true. I can't remember. But I know we passed up the opportunity to pick Dan Marino. And man, that was surprising. Because he was a Pitt guy. Took Pitt to the national championship. That's rare. Didn't they win? They won the national championship. Johnny Majors, right? Am I crazy? Am I losing my mind? So yeah, dude. Why didn't we draft him? They drafted Kenny Pickett on a much lighter resume. Why wouldn't they have gone with it? Well, here's why they didn't go. This is all rumors and speculation. But I've heard that there was a suspicion about Dan Marino's character, and maybe that he was abusing drugs. Now, I have no knowledge of that situation, nor do I care to. And clearly, he went on to have a stellar career, Hall of Fame, extraordinary career. So he's got the talent, and whatever issues the Steelers might have seen, it didn't really result in him having any trouble on the field, and frankly, probably just wasn't even an issue for him. He seemed like a really, really talented guy. But I respect that they had a commitment, It's like the Pittsburgh way. You're expected to hold yourself to a high standard of excellence and behavior, not only on the field, but in your personal life. And I felt like that was a real part of the success story of that team. But that's eroded, and that's just the world, man. That's not really, that's just the world. But anyway, other than that 84, and then 89 was it with the Houston Oilers. We lost the Broncos the next week. I cried. That was tough, man. I think it was Elway in the Broncos in 89. They probably went to the Super Bowl and got smoked. Those Broncos teams, they were good until they got to the Super Bowl. Then they just got destroyed. It was all about San Fran. Joe Montana, Steve Young, unstoppable force. Then Bill Cowher comes on the scene. So Chuck Noll gets bounced. This Bill Cowher guy, he's completely different. And I think that's a breath of fresh air for many fans. For me, I was suspicious at first because I really, really, really enjoyed the stoicism of Chuck Noll. He never got high, he never got low. You couldn't even read this guy. He was like a poker face on the sideline. The only time I saw him get angry once was at Jerry Glanville, who was a tool from Atlanta. And we smoked them as much as possible. And I think at one point, like, Chuck Noll wanted to knock his block off, and they almost got into fisticuffs. I gotta have to look that up on YouTube. That was an old memory. But when Cowher comes in there, this guy's like leading with emotion, leads with his heart. He's got the jaw, sticks it out there, spits, yells at his players. I kind of like that. Get him fired up. Takes him to a Super Bowl in the 90s. We get smoked by Dallas. That's embarrassing. Neil O'Donnell. Next year he goes to the Jets. You're not telling me that's an inside job? Give me a break. But we did win eventually with Big Ben. So kudos to Bill Cowher for leading that. But then he kind of retired. Everyone thought that was a little premature. Because at the same time, though, once you've gone to the dance twice and you win it, and unlike Tomlin, Cowher would have a great season, then a real lousy season. Like he'd go 12-4, then he'd like go 6-8, something like that. And that was annoying, and it sucked, and it was disappointing. But, and here's an important thing to contemplate. As much as we might respect Tomlin's regular season capability to get him through, have a winning season, it seems like, to me, if you're ever going to get good at something in this league, you gotta be bad for a year or two. You gotta have an off season, off year. We don't have that. So I mean, you could say that's to Tomlin's credit. He gets them ready to play. Somehow they pull out the victories sufficient to get to 500. But it just doesn't translate to playoff success. And ultimately, I think this fan base is going to get rabid and angry. They already are. My friends are asking me, like, we got to fire this guy. And I say, okay, take out your anger on Tomlin. Go for it. What's next? What's after Tomlin? What do you think is out there, actually? I think you got to be really careful when you make a move like this. So the only circumstance in which I would support it would be a case where we get some draft picks, we get some capital, and I actually think you'd probably want to package it with a couple other players and just kind of start over, kind of rebuild, commit for several years and stock up with talent. And the number one talent you gotta be in the league this year, this time. This is the era of the quarterback, right? Gone are the days when you could just have a stingy defense and a, ball protecting quarterback like Trent Dilfer. I mean, that's just not going to fly anymore. You got to have athletes back there behind center. And as much as I love Russ Wilson, and yes, he's probably the best talent we've had at QB for 5 to 7 years. I mean, even Big Ben, bless his heart, those last couple of years were brutal. Dude's running around like concrete blocks on his feet. It was terrible. He's chucking it up. Look, I respect Ben more than anybody and his talents and capabilities, but we all know those last couple seasons were pretty tough. And it was good for him to bow out when he did. Granted, we didn't have a backup, and maybe we should have been prepared. Maybe we should have been a little more focused on readying ourselves for the air. I remember when they drafted, who was that cat from North Dakota? He actually did a good job last year. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Well, anyway, I think Ben wasn't too happy when they drafted him. I'm like, dude. Oh, who was the guy before Ben? He played in the Canadian League or the Arena League. Oh my gosh, Tommy Gunn, something like that. He was up. Tommy Maddox. It's wow, that came out of nowhere. Tommy Maddox. He was upset when they drafted Ben. I mean, just come on, man. Pay it forward. It came full circle. Ben was upset when they drafted Rudolph. That's who it was. And that wasn't helpful. It wasn't helpful at all, man. We really need people to focus on prepping for the air. We haven't done that historically very well. I mean, Steve Young was mentored by the greatest. And then when he came in, he was ready to rock. There are probably many examples of this throughout history. It just takes someone who's committed to the team and ready to hand over the baton. I don't know where I'm going with this conversation, and we're more than halfway through the walk. So I do want to get to the fixing of the Steelers, but I do want to, for a second, because my mind is on it, that old school 80s, 90s era religion, watching those games every week. One thing that really stands out to me, and striking memory, is the commercials, man. The commercials were solid. They had this thing at the 2-minute warning where they would do like the army or the military would do recruiting commercials, like "Be all you can be. You make the call." So they would show a play, and then they'd say, "Was it a penalty? Was it a touchdown? What happened?" Then they'd do another commercial, then they'd come back and reveal. Those were amazing. If someone brought those back, I think our recruiting numbers would go through the roof. I was ready to sign up for the military after a couple seasons. I mean, it was between that and the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps ads were tight. Toughest job you'll ever love. There were people like in jungles and deserts, like doing cool stuff, fishing, like paddling boats down the stream, digging ditches. It was awesome. I was like, "Dad, I'm going to join the Peace Corps." He's like, "You sure about that?" Hey, man, since I've been to D.C., I've met many people who are in the Peace Corps. I dig it. I respect it. And it's like one of those things, you can only live once, and you have no regrets. You got to just go forward, not look back. But that's something I wish I would have been more open to, foreign service like that. Because everyone I met that's been in the Peace Corps, they've impressed me, dude. They know what they're doing. They're smart. They're capable. I probably wouldn't have gotten in, let's be honest. I guess I could do it as an adult. Apparently that's the case. Apparently, there's no age limit. So that could be a retirement gig. Jungle of just going through the jungle, helping people out. Yeah. That's what I think of when I think of the Peace Corps. I don't know what the Peace Corps does. I had this vision of it based on those commercials from the 80s. There's some dude in a river throwing a net, and he's like, bringing in big batches of fish for the town, village people. Like, "Yes, thank you, America. You're helping us. The Peace Corps is here to save the day." Oh, man, those were the days. Back when America was the good guy, man. Everyone embraced that. We had Rambo saving POWs and everything. Come on. Anyway, how do we fix this problem? How do we fix the Steelers? All right, let's talk about coaching. Let's talk about personnel. On the coaching side, I think there's a knock against Tomlin that seems extraordinarily on point. I don't have a satisfying answer for it. But if you look at like his tree, it doesn't have much of a tree. There aren't that many assistant coaches that have gone on to have other head coaching jobs. So that might suggest we need to do a better job with the staff. Get folks who challenge more. Don't just, nod and accept. Now again, I'm not on the inside. I don't know how this stuff works. We've obviously had lots of problems over the years with offensive coordinator. I don't know what the answer is on this. But I'll tell you what, it's not just one. It's not just a matter of ditching a coach and getting better. You think it's going to turn things around immediately? Hell no. And by the way, who are you going to hire? Who's out there that's so great that's going to come in here and save the day? I don't know. I don't see it. Coaching is very unpredictable. If you think back even when Tomlin was hired, it wasn't my choice. I was more of a Wisenhunt guy. Is that the guy's name? He was our OC. He was masterful. I mean, he went to Arizona. He got them to the Super Bowl. Then he lost to us. And then where has he been? I don't even know what he's doing these days. So who knows how things would have turned out differently if we would have gone with the Wisenhunt. Or the other dude, Russ Grimm. Wasn't he also in the contention there for a while? I wonder what that guy's up to. Bottom line, I don't think it's simply a coaching issue. One more thing I'll say, which Tomlin is a player's coach. That's what they say. That's the book. I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of that style. But I also think it's beyond Tomlin. I think it's the league. I think it's culture. It's society. Athletes run the teams. That's the world we're in. Look at those contracts, man. You can't pay someone hundreds of millions of dollars and not expect them to think that they're superior. They're going to sit there and take orders from some middle-aged geezer. Give me a break. Come on. Especially because they've been living their whole lives, pampered, and everything given to them. Now, they work hard for it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, you got to have talent and hustle and grind to make it to the professional levels of anything. But there's just a lot of attitude that I would never put up with. Chuck Noll would have benched half this team, man. The way they behave, the way they act, throwing tantrums. Unacceptable. So let's pivot to personnel. We got talent. We got talent for years, man. It's beautiful. Pickens, TJ. I even think Najee's better than he performs. I like him as a character guy, but he's probably not coming back. The difference is, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you have a bad attitude, you're like a cancer on that team, dude. I see it and I sense it. And I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with it. And there was a couple games where Pickens was out and we got smoked, and as oh, this is going to be a tough future. If we get rid of Pickens, we're in trouble. I'm like, I'd rather have that trouble and deal with it through the draft or find some other talent than deal with someone who just seems like he's out for himself more than the team. We need team-oriented players. Give me that any day. And frankly, I'd take losing seasons to have a team that I believe is putting it all on the line and really, really committed and working together, all for one for all, you know? That's the sort of ethos that I kind of feel is missing. It's like, but that's a magical ingredient. I don't know how you get that. I don't know where that comes from. It's all about chemistry, personality, ego. I don't know. I don't know how you recruit for that. It's not like that's a bench press or a 40-yard dash you can measure. It's just a character trait. How do you find those guys? What do I know? Nothing, by the way. So let's wrap up here with the conclusion that I think is important for everyone to remember. Any critic of the Steelers or any team or professional sporting franchise should acknowledge right from the get. It's not our job, dude. If you were any good at it, you'd probably be doing it for a living. The fact that you're not means you're on the sidelines. You're in the peanut gallery. You, me, the vast majority of people with these really hard and fast opinions about what needs to be done to solve the world's problems. It's the same thing with politics to an extent. Everyone's got an opinion, but you're not in the arena. So it's like you're just chirping. In a way, you're irrelevant. I'm irrelevant. Everything I'm saying here is pointless. So it's important to keep that in mind. You think you have all the answers? You probably don't. And if you're any good at it, you'd actually be doing it, not talking about it. That's how I feel about the critics. That's how I feel about these journalists that are out there. They think they know everything, this, that, the other. They got all the solutions. Yeah, sure. That's why you're like, putting makeup on and in front of the bright lights rather than actually in the machine, working, grinding, hustling. I have much more respect for people that work in that on a daily basis for a living. All we see is like 3 or 4 hours of the game. We think that's it. Oh, it's great. It's all glory and excitement and fun. Dude, we have no idea what these people are up to. What it takes to succeed at that level is beyond the average human's comprehension. Yeah, it's just my sense of it. So I don't think I have any solutions for this team. I'm grateful that I'm a fan of the greatest franchise. And I think you could make arguments for New England. You could make arguments for San Fran, possibly. But let there be no confusion. 3 coaches, 50 years, 7 appearances, 6 championships, spanning various eras, not just all lumped into at one period of time. I mean, dude, come on. Come on, really? Just acknowledge that Pittsburgh Steelers are incredible. We are heading to some hard times, potentially. I don't know what the future is going to yield here. Tomlin or no Tomlin. Personnel shakeup or no personnel shakeup. I don't know what the future holds. But I know I'm going to be a fan. I'm going to be rooting for him. That's what it means to be a fan. You're a fanatic. It's irrational. It's emotional. And so that's never going to change. And if it does, if you're one of these like fair weather fans that just is out after a couple lousy seasons, by the way, a lot of teams in this league would be grateful to have a first round playoff loss. We are spoiled brats. You talk to Jets fans. Hell, talk to the Lions fans. Talk to the Bills fans. Now, granted, they have some good teams. They're on the cusp, but they still haven't been to the promised land. They haven't achieved it yet. We've achieved it 6 times. It gets passé. Our expectations get far too high. People need to dial it back and realize, dude, we are blessed. We are fortunate. We are lucky. We have it so good. Now, I understand we want to always be great. Once you achieve that status, you can't get enough, right? It's never enough. But just try to put things in perspective, man. We are so fortunate, so lucky. That's probably why it hurts that we can't seem to get the magic back. But I think it will come back. I'm confident it will. It could have some lean years ahead. The entire Pittsburgh sporting scene is challenged right now. Pens are struggling. Pirates have so much potential, but owners that just are disappointing. Makes me upset viscerally. Gosh, I don't even want to think about this. Getting off topic here. Stick to the Steelers. Season's over. Enjoy the playoffs. I guess I'm rooting for the Bills or the Lions. Just because those fan bases deserve it, man. They've been waiting for so long. I guess that's who I'm rooting for, maybe. Bottom line, black and gold will bounce back. We'll make it happen. I have confidence in this owner. I have confidence in this culture. I have confidence in these fans. We're not going to abandon this team. We're going to stick by them thick and thin. Dude, we went a whole decade in the 80s. They were pretty trashy, let's be honest. That's when I grew up watching them. Merrill Hodge, Walter Abercrombie, Bubby Brister. Hey, man, it was a good time. It was a good time because it didn't matter if we won or lost. It was like just putting it all on the line, man. They tried. They played hard. I like that. That's what I'm going for. So I'm going to stick with that. That's my take. Enjoy your team. Enjoy their ethos. Win or lose, stick with them. It's part of your moral character, man. That's how I'll judge people, man. I don't play fantasy sports. I'm not about the team. I'm not about the individuals. I'm about the team. And for me, that team is the black and gold Pittsburgh Steelers till I die. And after I'm dead, I'll still be watching them up in heaven. All right, man. It's been a fun walk and talk. Thank you. Hope you've enjoyed my pontifications on how to fix the black and gold. I don't know if I actually had any satisfying answers there, but it is what it is. See you next time on Raff's Brain. All right.